The Trumpet Daily is presented by Stephen Flurry. The program analyzes world news and history from a distinct perspective and compares current events to prophecies found in the Bible. The program also offers free educational publications, including the Trumpet News Magazine and books and booklets. The Trumpet Daily is produced at the Philadelphia Church of God's home campus in Edmond, Oklahoma, and its sister campus in Edstone, England. More information is available at thetrumpet.com.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
Today's world news, what it means, where it's taking us.
5
bring you the one and only possible message of world peace.
This is a message of hope, tremendous hope. And he said unto me, you must prophesy again.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
And the vaccine, as you know, is strongly recommended by the CDC, by ACOG, by the Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine for all pregnant women. And yet vaccine hesitancy has been especially high among pregnant women. And the CDC has reported that vaccination rates are really low compared to the general population among pregnant women. And of course, we all understand pregnancy and worry go together, right? But I'm still hoping you can explain to concerned moms and dads-to-be, and as a father yourself, why you are so confident that the vaccine is safe and effective to get when you're pregnant, and why should moms not worry so much?
Well, even though this is an issue and a problem that all of us, including myself, when my wife was pregnant with my 3 daughters, I got nervous about everything.
I'm sure you did.
The best way to explain that is to look at the facts that are really well known. Mm-hmm. And you balance these facts about risk versus benefit. The overwhelming balance of risk benefit is in favor of pregnant women getting vaccinated against COVID-19. And then you ask the question, well, are the vaccines safe? And if you look at the literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of women who have been followed by the CDC, who were vaccinated when they were pregnant, there's no indication whatsoever that there's any increase of any adverse issues in a pregnant woman who was vaccinated compared to a pregnant woman who wasn't vaccinated.
Dr. Anthony Fauci recently said that about 20,000 pregnant women have already been vaccinated with no red flags.
CDC is giving the green light when it comes to COVID-19 vaccine usage during pregnancy, following the results of a recent study that included vaccination surveillance of more than 35,000 pregnant women. It showed expecting mothers experienced the same side effects as others following vaccination.
Importantly, no safety concerns were observed for people vaccinated in the 3rd trimester or safety concerns for their babies.
And while the COVID-19 vaccine is still relatively new, nearly 180,000 pregnant women have received it. Vaccination information collected by the CDC hasn't identified any safety concerns for pregnant women or their babies.
So when you put that risk of COVID versus the risk of not being vaccinated, it is crystal clear why we're hearing all our professional organizations recommend imploring women in all 3 trimesters who are considering being pregnant or breastfeeding, get vaccinated.
It couldn't be more clear.
Correct.
Anthony Fauci in a text exchange with Vivek Murthy and Rochelle Walensky, the CDC director, they're talking about the COVID injection and having pregnant women take it. And in the middle of that text exchange, I think the key text is where Anthony Fauci is talking about the fact that the second dose creates a greater cytokine storm, additional information that could have an impact on increased miscarriages in the 1st trimester. Now, to add to that, in June of 2021, Tom Shimabukuro, a bunch of other people published a grossly misleading study in the New England Journal of Medicine, where they were looking at 827 confirmed pregnancies. There were 104 miscarriages. They call them spontaneous abortions, but we refer to those as miscarriages. 104 divided by 827 would imply about a 12.6% miscarriage rate, which is quite high for confirmed pregnancies. I talked to Dr. James Thorpe, who says generally around 3%, so it's already 4 times as high, but within the realm of confirmed and unconfirmed pregnancies, okay? So they put this study out there, but what they don't reveal, they do, but they don't account for it, is that 700 of those 827 women took the injection in their 3rd trimester. Now, spontaneous abortions occur before 20 weeks. Third trimester starts after 28. So the relevant denominator would have been 127. So you would have had 124 miscarriages out of 127 of the women who got the injection in the first or second trimesters. That's an 82%. 82% miscarriage rate. That is shocking news.
What Fauci said in that text message that you divined from his phone seems to be quite at odds with the public messaging that occurred following him sending that text message. That text message was sent on the 25th of January, 2021. Fauci said on February 3rd, and you included this in your press release regarding this, Fauci's message was FDA have found thus far, and we have to be careful, but thus far no red flags about pregnant women. August 11th, 6 months later, CDC Sasha Ellington, we are not seeing a signal of safety concerns of the vaccine in pregnancy. Fauci again, August 30th. He said tens and tens of thousands of women who have been followed by the CDC have been vaccinated when they were pregnant. There's no indication whatsoever there's any increase in adverse issues. It stands in sharp contrast with the concerns that he voiced back in January of that same year.
Yes, they lied.
They lied. More revelations, this time from Tony Fauci's cell phone. And there's indication or evidence, perhaps, that he deleted messages off that as well. I'll get to a story on that a little bit later. But first, what he was saying about pregnant women out front, in front of the cameras. Yeah, there's no problem. You got to take it. And then there's Senator Ron Johnson, talking about what he texted behind the scenes and how that there were dangers. Here again, exposed as a liar and as a fraud. You're listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. We appreciate you joining us on today's show. You can get to the live video stream of this program at our website, thetrumpet.com, or at the Rumble channel or the YouTube channel. You can send feedback at td@thetrumpet.com. So the book, we did an entire Key of David program on this book, America Under Attack. It's not outdated. Just because Donald Trump is back in office, it doesn't mean the information in here is all fulfilled and now irrelevant. Go back and go through this material, and also be praying for a good response to the Key of David program this weekend. It's a pretty strong show that'll be posted at our website on Friday. So if you watch it on broadcast television, you can see it this Sunday. And just go to thetrumpet.com to search for the TV log. It's under I forget what tab that's under on the website. Just go to, scroll and scroll away. I was on another document in the Trumpet. So in any event, you can find it. Watch it on your local channel. I did that a couple of weeks ago. I don't do it often because I see plenty of myself as it is. But I watched it. I looked at all the bells and whistles that the guys put on the weekly program, and it's generating some good results. This story, the New York Post, Dr. Anthony Fauci privately raised concerns that the COVID-19 vaccine could theoretically, quote unquote, be linked to miscarriages. What group are we going to try to protect? We have so many wokesters that are out there doing everything that they can to not just protect, but promote people that are transgenders, for example, homosexual marriage. The Bible talks about looking after the fatherless and the widows. What about women and unborn children? Who's going to be held to account? I'll play you a clip from President Trump later. It's so weak. There's no courage. Listen, there's lots of leaders in the world today. Maybe not lots. Strong leaders. President Trump certainly falls in that category. A strong leader, a confident leader, an assertive leader. But there's no righteousness. And the Bible says that the righteous are as bold as a lion. These revelations come out. What do we get? We get a few sound bites from Ron Johnson and Rand Paul. And that's it. That's it. First, it was the diary. exposing Dr. Science as a fraud. And now we get the cell phone record. Now we get all the text messages, at least those that haven't been deleted. Really sad to see this happening to our nations. Shows the sickness. It quotes a little bit later, since many people have significant cytokines, I guess, storm and fever after the second dose. This theoretically, this is quoting Fauci, this theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. And you heard Ron Johnson go through the statistics there. Horrific. It's just horrific. And you had talking heads, even some of them women who are pregnant, bragging about taking the jab. I'll play you a segment later from CNN where Anderson Cooper's people, they're chasing down a doctor that would dare caution people about vaccines as they worshiped Tony Fauci, Dr. Science. Sick history. And it's just been in the past 4 or 5 years. And then a reporter yesterday asked President Trump about this. Well, you know, Biden bad, Trump good. That was basically his response. Play clip 2. This is, again, taking you back to 2022 and what Fauci said on that podcast. Some of it you saw in the cold open, number 2.
It really is pretty clear that pregnant women should get vaccinated.
And it's not even at this point, go talk to your doctor. I mean, you should definitely go talk to your doctor, but it's not ambiguous.
No, it really is.
It's really important to get vaccinated.
In all transparency, Heidi, in the very beginning, when we didn't really know what the effect of the disease was on pregnancy, and we didn't have enough experience of pregnant women getting vaccinated, I couldn't be having this conversation with you.
That's right.
But now that you said we're 19 months into this outbreak, we know a lot about what the effect of the disease is on pregnancy. And we now have tons of experience with pregnant women who've been vaccinated. And it's just like I mentioned to you a moment ago, this is an easy call.
Look at these two. You don't even need to check with your doctor. You got it from the horse's mouth. You got it from Fauci himself. No risks, no red flags, nothing to worry about. And if your doctor protests, well, turn him into CNN. They'll chase him down. They'll try to destroy him. They couldn't have done this. I'm talking about Big Pharma and the CDC, Fauci and all his goons. They could not have done this were it not for the talking heads in the media, like this woman. Now, listen, Dr. Fauci, they don't even need to check with their doctor, do they? No, they don't. Here she is coaching him as if he needs it. You don't need to check anything that we say. You don't need to fact check anything we say. And meanwhile, he's texting and he's writing in his diary and he's exposing himself. Dr. Fauci, exposed by Dr. Fauci. How perfect is that? Listen to this from the BBC. This goes back to 2021. False and misleading claims about COVID-19 vaccines, fertility, and miscarriages are still circulating online, despite not being supported by evidence. Yeah, there's no evidence, no facts, says the BBC. They may be a notch lower than CNN. But now so much safety data has become available that this advice has changed and the vaccine is now actively encouraged, as getting COVID itself can put a pregnancy at risk. COVID's going to kill your baby. Forget about the vaccine. You got to get the vaccine so you can kill COVID. And then we learned that the vaccine didn't kill COVID. It actually did kill babies. USA Today, this is September of 2023. The claim, the new COVID-19 vaccine was tested on only 4 rats. It received more than 400 likes in one day. Here's the USA Today doing its part to try to stamp out vaccine hesitancy. There's this post online saying it was only tested on 4 rats. Listen to their response. Listen to how they try to blot out that propaganda, the way they see it. It says the Post misinterprets a study that involved 44 rats. Oh, okay. 44. Well, now I feel better. Give me the jab. Give me 3 jabs. Jab my baby. 44 rats? This is insane. 44. Just trust the science. We tried it out on a few rats. The test was on people, human beings. They tried it out. It was untested for the most part, and they tried it out on human beings. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. Now we're getting the receipts. And we now know that there was some hesitancy privately, there was some hesitancy coming from Dr. Science. But of course, he couldn't say that publicly, because publicly you are pro-vaccine. RFK, Sam Livingston sent me a clip earlier where they've dialed back all of these vaccines that you're supposed to give a baby straight away, right out of the womb, up into the 70s it used to be. And they've rolled that back to 11, and they're stretching it out over time, so you're not just jabbing this infant with all these needles and all these poisons and toxins. Can you imagine? As if they can't survive without it. I've never had one vaccine in my life. I've never had a needle pierce my skin. I guess maybe for drawing blood here or there. And that's it. This is not God's world, that's for sure. Can you imagine the wonderful world tomorrow and a newborn baby comes along and you're just jabbing it with 72 vaccines? Man-made, by the way. Is that God's way? Did God create Adam and Eve and 72 needles with toxins inside? As if what God created wasn't quite good enough. It needs man to weigh in on what God did. It needs man. It needs human beings to weigh in on, well, I don't know if God did it right. God did it right. God is our maker. God created us to be in robust, healthy existences. Jesus came that we might have the abundant life. He didn't come waving all these vaccine needles. He came and he lived a perfect life in the spiritual sense and physical. He ate healthy. He was never sick. He didn't get a head cold. And he never had a vaccine. How did he do it? Well, you would think there'd be more doctors interested in cause and effect. What causes sickness? What causes disease? Why did the people that got COVID, for the most part, or at least were threatened with death by it, why were they infirmed and sick to begin with? What's the connection? Is anybody curious? Yes, COVID spread. Yes, COVID was contagious. And yes, COVID killed mostly, not all, but mostly the sick and infirmed. And then here comes the vaccine, and the vaccine kills people. Healthy babies. Healthy. That's criminal. People should go to jail for that. But now they've got immunity. They've got the will worship vaccine. Listen, they even today, they are to be worshiped. It's funny, CNN, they're chasing down Dr. Mercola. How can you dare suggest that the vaccine might not be perfect? And then when Dr. Mercola doesn't answer, oh, that's the greatest crime in history. He didn't answer. He pleaded the fifth. They're getting a little bit of a taste of their own medicine now. Fauci pleaded the fifth 111 times. CNN's not banging down his door. They're not chasing Fauci. And the few that do, well, let's just say Mrs. Fauci, she's not real pleasant when the cameras roll up. 44 rats. So now, do you feel better? That not 4, no, certainly not. 44. Oh, okay. This is from The Atlantic in December. The idea that mRNA-based shots have tragically killed a very small number of children is not far-fetched. Here's The Atlantic quietly changing its mind. And what in the world with the language? What is wrong with these people? Even when they admit they're wrong, that the best they can do is that it's not far-fetched. Not far-fetched? Did it kill people or did it not kill people? They can't bring themselves to admit that they were flat out wrong. They can't bring themselves to admit that Dr. Science, flat out wrong. They cannot, unless you're Ron Johnson, they cannot bring themselves to admit that Dr. Science lied, that he was Dr. Deceiver, that he was Dr. Duplicitous, that he was Dr. Death. No public health authorities deny that COVID shots can have some ill effects. What? No public health authorities deny that COVID shots can have some ill effects. So now, well, we always thought there could be side effects. Well, tell that to Dr. McCullough and the CNN news crew that chased him down. How can you say the vaccine has side effects? Do you have anything to say? Oh, you're going to plead the fifth? Okay. You talk about exposing evil. This exposes the media, the regime, the fifth column, the Trojan horse, the enemy of the people. It sure does. Now here comes The Atlantic. The Atlantic is finally just ever so slightly edging in the direction of there were side effects. It's not far-fetched. Come on. It makes you, like I've said also, with respect to some of these revelations, it sure makes you appreciate God's truth. God, in the scriptures, God says, look, if you obey me, including my health laws, you won't have miscarriages. Wow. You just won't have them. That's what we can look forward to in the world tomorrow. It's God's world. It's coming soon. But anyway, if you feel good about the Atlantic finally coming around to say, yeah, so I guess a few kids did die. It's not far-fetched that it happened, but listen, it's no big deal. It just kind of happens with every vaccine. Anyway, bring your baby in here so that we can load them up with 72 vaccines. The Guardian, this is from 2022. Well, I could skip that one. Evidence of vaccines' impact. CDC report, November 2023. The report presents provisional 2022 data on infant mortality rates using the U.S. linked birth infant rate, infant death files. The provisional number of linked birth infant deaths in the U.S. in 2022 increase of 3%. The provisional infant mortality rate for 2022 was 5.6 infant deaths per 1,000 live births, 3% higher. So even back in 2023, they were saying, well, yeah, there has been an increase, but it's not really that big. You see, when they're finally pinned down or backed into a corner, well, okay, there was a little bit of election fraud, but it didn't really affect the election. Well, okay, there was a little bit of sin, but, you know, a little bit of sin's okay. Human reasoning run amok. God, we heard in the orientation yesterday about coming and reasoning together with God. And we can thank him, our heavenly creator, that he doesn't talk like the Atlantic. Well, it's not far-fetched. I guess to say that sinning will bring with it curses is not far-fetched. Moses didn't talk that way to the Israelites. Jesus didn't talk that way. People today make him out to be someone who talked like that, but he didn't. He came to the religious elites of his day and he said, brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. There you go. The heart is evil. The heart is deceitful. The heart is wicked. That's why we need God's mind. That's why we need the spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. That's why we need to stir that up. That's why we need to reason with God. That's why we need to pore over the scriptures, because we need to think like God. Brad McDonald was talking to our students this morning about the student handbook, the rules, the standards here at God's College. And he said to the students, I call this the book of happiness. That's what the Bible is. It shows you the way to happiness and joy and health and energy and prosperity and strength. But we have to be willing to go that way. We have to be willing to do the commandments, to do what God teaches. Look at Psalm 119, by the way. I don't have it in my notes, so forgive me as I turn over there. Psalm 119. It's a pretty simple and straightforward verse, but there's so much beauty to this psalm. Verse 67, I'll read 2 verses. Jeremiah says, before I was afflicted, before that happened, I went astray. Before I had all these afflictions, all of these curses, I was going astray. In other words, I wasn't obeying your precepts, your commandments, your statutes and judgments. He talks about that all through this psalm. But then he says, but now I have kept your word. I've learned from my mistakes, in other words. And now I'm keeping your word. Now I'm observing your commandments. And now my joy has returned. There was a time when, you can see this in another psalm, that Jeremiah was borderline depressed and accusing God of not keeping his word. But this is a different Jeremiah. This is a repentant Jeremiah. He's come around. He's learned from his afflictions. And he's now keeping and observing God's word. And that's what makes us happy. That's what fills us with joy. He says in the next verse, speaking to God, you are good and you do good. Teach me your statutes. That's perhaps one of the foremost signs of God's goodness than anything else. The fact that he's willing to teach us, to educate us, to show us. But we've got to be willing students and disciples. We've got to be studious. We've got to love it, and we've got to use it. We've got to put it into practice. That's the ultimate test. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. As James said, if you hear only and you don't do, you're deceiving yourself. So it's more than just the education. It's more than just the book knowledge. It's more than just the good lecture. But what a blessing that is, to sit at the feet of God's servants and to receive the truth of God and to then go to work on living it, on applying it, on using it. Using the book of happiness. Using the good book. Looking to God, who is good. And all he wants to do is give us all of his delights, everything that makes him good and happy and joyous and delighted. He wants us to be that same way. Do you see that way of life in this world? There's not much of it. That's why so many people are drugged up, and vaccines fall into that same category. We're not even talking about antidepressants and all of the drugs that a lot of people take as a matter of routine. It's a daily ritual. It's an idol. Our faith, our trust is in man-made substances. And God says, why don't you look to me? One of his names is Yahweh Rapha, God our healer. So, Fauci good, Mercola bad. If there's one thing the elites understood back in 2021, 2022, Fauci good, not even good, Fauci righteous, Fauci angelic, Fauci God, Fauci science. Mercola, well, he's a demon. For sure, because he cautioned people about vaccines. How the tables have turned. Listen to this one from, well, I don't have the exact date. It's from a few years ago, clip 8.
He is the ultimate super spreader, not of the coronavirus, experts say, but of misinformation about COVID-19. His name is Dr. Joseph Mercola.
It is very likely that most people in America, if not the vast majority of people in America, have seen misinformation that has originated with this super spreader of lies and misinformation.
We tried to track down Dr. Mercola to ask him about the misinformation he's been posting, like masks may not work, vaccines could be dangerous, and vitamin C and D can prevent or treat the coronavirus. We first tried to find him at his office in Cape Coral, Florida, outside Fort Myers.
I'm looking for Dr. Joseph Mercola. Not here.
Next stop, more than 220 miles away, Ormond Beach, Florida, which Dr. Mercola calls home.
How are you? I'm Randy Kay with CNN. Can we ask you a couple questions? We just want to talk to you about vaccines and what you've been saying about them. Do you feel responsible for people who didn't get vaccinated, possibly got sick and died because of what you told them about the vaccines?
So despite all his bravado online, Mercola suddenly had nothing to say. Though after we emailed him questions, he responded saying, I encourage every person to fully educate themselves to make individual decisions about medical risk-taking.
I'd like for you to get a pen and pad, and let's just jot down, according to CNN, let's jot down Dr. Mercola's crimes against humanity. He's a super spreader. They said that twice. Go ahead, let's jot them down. Number 1, he suggested masks may not work. Fauci himself, he's on forget about the diary. Before COVID, he's on video saying that. Okay, so that's number 1. That's the number 1 crime that this man committed. Number 2 crime, vaccines could be dangerous. They could be. And then number 3, vitamin C and D can prevent or treat the coronavirus. Well, as I say, the tables have certainly turned. How could you call him, this man right here, a super spreader of lies and misinformation? Here we are now, and that is the perfect description of Dr. Science. His diary exposes it. His diary reveals it. And now his cell phone too. How audacious of this reporter. This is a direct quote. Do you feel responsible for people who didn't get vaccinated, possibly got sick and died because of what you told them? Regime media, the Free Press, says Fauci's private texts show that he wrestled with many doubts that he later characterized as misinformation when they were uttered aloud by critics. Ultimately, officials like Fauci were too keen on pushing vaccines to everyone, young children, pregnant women, people who already had COVID. So they're not immune if they've had it. Just give them the jab. That's what Pfizer wants. That's what Pfizer needs for their stock to go up. Give them the jab. Give them multiple jabs. And not eager enough to run the appropriate studies needed to settle the doubts. It says, for a man who declared himself as science, it's a pity he didn't champion more of it. Well, that's a pretty weak conclusion right there. That's not that far removed from the Atlantic. Not far-fetched. For a man who declared himself as science, it's a pity he didn't champion more of it. It's a pity he wasn't more of a scientist. It's a shame, it's embarrassing that the man's not prosecuted for this, that he's not behind bars right now. But he's not going to jail, that's for sure. Listen to President Trump. This is clip 5. He's in the Oval Office yesterday. All of these revelations about Fauci covering the truth, about Fauci saying one thing to a colleague in private, and then telling, as you heard in that podcast, yeah, there's no risk. You don't even have to ask your doctor about this. If you're pregnant, just get the jab. So they asked President Trump about all of this, and here's what he had to say, clip 5.
Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson released some text messages from Anthony Fauci, and it appears that as early as January 2021, they knew that there could possibly be complications with pregnant women and miscarriages tied to the COVID vaccine. Yet the Biden administration health officials, they didn't change their rhetoric. Your reaction?
Well, the Biden administration was a disaster in every way. That would be just one way, but they have been a disaster in every single one. It's unimaginable what they did in that. Forget about weaponization. Forget even about, as important as what you're saying. So many of the open borders, the men and women's sports. They've just been a horrendous disaster, the highest inflation in history. And we're doing a great job.
Did he even hear the question? All of these revelations that Fauci lied and he gave this bogus advice to pregnant women, telling them, don't worry, no red flags, everything's good. And President Trump's response, transgender women and sports and inflation, and we're doing really good. We are doing really good. You think Fauci's going to ever go to jail? You think he's going to ever be investigated by anyone other than Rand Paul in a congressional hearing? Do you think the DOJ is going to get involved? We're not into predictions on this show, but I'll make one. I don't think so. I don't think the DOJ is going to get involved. What a weak statement. I'm sorry, it's weak. The righteous are as bold as a lion. There's too much confidence in human beings, in flesh, in science, and not enough righteousness. Teach me, oh God, teach me your ways. Teach me how you think. Show me how to go the right way. Show me how to be good. Lead me in the way of goodness and peace and joy and faith and love and long-suffering. Give me the mind of Christ, Philippians 2:5. Let the mind of Christ into my mind and help me to be humble enough and soft and malleable enough to receive the mind of Christ so that I can learn your ways, so that I can fulfill your will. The New York Post says here, if Fauci can be shown to have concealed or destroyed government records, well, there's evidence that there's a lot of deletions on this phone that Rand Paul has obtained. It says that's significant because Fauci's former factotum, David Morans, I guess I looked it up. Factotum is like your assistant. That's what I'm going to be calling Mr. Livingston from now on. My factotum. That's a great word. A personal assistant that looks after a lot of different things. It's perfect. Well, Fauci's factotum has been caught deleting files. And now Dr. Science, he's on the hot seat. Did he do the same thing? I suppose we'll find out. And some reporters probably going to ask President Trump about it. And President Trump's going to say something like you just heard. Biden bad, Trump good. In previous data dumps from Paul's Senate Homeland Security Committee, Fauci is already on record telling two associates to delete emails. Dr. Science, He pleaded the fifth 111 times. He's told associates to delete emails, and now we're beginning to uncover some evidence on his phone, suggesting he might have done the same thing. They'll probably have to get all of this technology to try to figure out what he was trying to get rid of, what he was trying to scrub, what he was trying to blot out. You see in all of this, not just in the phone, but you see it in the last 6 years. The lengths to which the devil will go to try to blot out the truth. Satan doesn't try to blot out lies. Satan is the father of lies. And so when the truth comes along, it comes under attack. That's what you saw there with Mercola. He was telling a bit of truth. I mean, look at the man. I don't know how old he is, but he's riding his bike shirtless. He's got a nice tan. He's in Florida. He's exercising. My wife follows him every day. But he's the target. He's the target. He's the one that is a super spreader. He's the one, CNN said it, he's the one murdering little babies. And then Fauci comes along. You know what's funny about Fauci? Pleaded the fifth 111 times, and then the reporting on Fauci and his diaries, and now the phone. The regime media is effectively pleading the fifth. Don't have anything to say. Not going to comment on that. Not going to call him a super spreader. Certainly not going to accuse him of killing babies. He's Fauci after all. Straight out of Colossians 2, isn't it? Will worship. As my father said, it gets so bad that you begin to worship your own opinions. And even when your own opinions are exposed as fraud or fraudulent, as lies, you still worship your new opinion, your revised opinion. Well, I mean, we've always thought it's not that far-fetched for there to be a few vaccine side effects. Everybody's thought that. Really? It also says a lot about the importance of the spirit of the law. Jeremiah read to you in Psalm 119, teach me your laws, your ways. And God does that to us if we're willing. And he also teaches us the depths of his laws and ways. And he reveals the truth about the spirit of the law. Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount, he said, don't think that if it's adulterous thoughts going on in your heart, that's not sin. Don't think you're not guilty because it hasn't manifested itself openly. God actually is interested in what's going on in our hearts, our minds, our thoughts. Do we harbor hatred and contempt for people? Do we harbor the spirit of murder, even if we may not be firing an actual handgun or firearm at someone else? It's going to be very different in the wonderful world tomorrow when all mankind is taught how to obey God from the heart. The problem with Israel, you can see this in 1 Kings, is they just didn't have the heart to obey. Their heart was really a heart to disobey. Their heart, they didn't have God's Spirit. Moses did, Joshua did, but they didn't. And so they constantly broke away from God and went into full-on rebellion against God's laws. And then the curses set in. And then they went through that cycle I was talking about last week, where they'd cry out to God for mercy and for deliverance. And God would send a righteous leader, correct things for a time, and then they would inevitably revert back to their old ways, the ways of Jeremiah 17:9. The ways of the wicked heart. Exodus 23, I mentioned, or paraphrased it, I guess, earlier. Verse 25, it says, and this is in the NASB translation, and you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless you. He'll bless your bread and your water, and I will remove sickness from your midst, God says. Verse 26 of Exodus 23. Look it up later. There will be no one miscarrying or unable to have children in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. See, babies, infants, they're no longer going to be, in the world tomorrow, they're not going to be miscarried. They're not going to be aborted. They're not going to be born and then jabbed with 72 needles, filling their little bodies up with toxins and poison. They're not going to be in danger of dying from widespread diseases. Those are going to be a thing of the past. Yesterday, it was Mr. Hilliker's lecture at orientation. He talks about this conference where they talked about the two creeds. The one of this world, people addicted to their devices, social media, and everything else. And then as these speakers were advocating, get away from the machines, the devices, and get outside and interact with people and start living a normal life. What's on social media is not real living. It's not abundant life or abundant living. But anyway, the creed of this one speaker, Mr. Hilliker related this to us, is to, and it's the way of this world. Love things. Love the gadgets. Love your devices. And then use people. Just use people so that you can get what you want. And then worship yourself. Tony Fauci typifies that way of life. The man was drunk on self-love. He loved looking at his pictures. He loved reading articles about him. He loved writing about his appearances on national TV. He loved that he was so popular. He saw himself as a sex symbol. I'm going to move on. The way, as I said with respect to yesterday, love people. That's, and I don't have time to get into all that Mr. Armstrong taught about how God's law is spiritual and how it's through God's law and by the power of God's Spirit that we love God and that we love God and His family above ourselves and that we love our neighbor in this world, the ones we don't know, as ourselves. There's obviously a place for things. And God told Adam and Eve, you're going to have to learn how to work with your material creation around you. But right here, right now, you've got a marriage to build, you and Eve, and you've got these laws that I've revealed, typified by the tree of life, the laws of God and God's Spirit, of course. But if you want to go your own way and decide for yourselves what's right and wrong, then go ahead and take from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In fact, God didn't say it that way. He said, don't take from it. Well, taking from it, the fact that there would be curses from taking from the wrong tree is not far-fetched. He didn't say that. He said, if you take from this tree, this forbidden tree, then you're going to die. You're going to bring death and misery and destruction on human civilization. And that's what's happened. That's what we see in the world today. Fauci was in love with himself. He was in love with money and things. He was in love with prizes that people awarded him. He loved to hear about how great he was. He was like a savior. He was out there saying, if you wear this mask, you're going to save your life, and then you can thank me. If you take this jab, you're going to save your life, and you're going to save your baby, your unborn baby, and you can thank me. And look at where we are today. Well, I've got like 4 minutes to transition into something else. There's all this, it's an amazing story today. Trump smuggled off Air Force One in catering cart as part of an elaborate plane switch over Iranian assassination threat. How many people in the world want to murder Donald Trump. We know there's a lot here in the United States that do. Here's Donald Trump. He's in Turkey, and this is like a month ago. Remember, he went to NATO, and remember that? We had the show on that saying that, yeah, they talked for like an hour. All these world leaders, these European leaders, they get together, they come out, they give their canned speeches. It's great. I've never seen so much unity, so much love. And then in leaving that, they had to smuggle him in a catering truck to get him out of Turkey because of the risk of assassination again. Officials familiar with the reported ruse told the New York Times that the president covertly entered a food cart that had been fitted to the belly of the plane amid threats from Iranian officials. So they had to put him on a military plane, I guess, not Air Force One, because there were credible threats that they were going to take him out. And this follows, this happened a month ago, but it follows the news from last week. I touched on it last week, but from PJ Media, another Trump assassination attempt may have just been thwarted. This guy scoping the place at his golf course in California. Another narrow escape. So 5 that we know of, 5 assassination attempts in America, on the homeland, and then one now in Turkey. How could one human being be such a lightning rod for all things controversial? It really is real, isn't it? Trump derangement syndrome. It transcends the U.S. borders. It's all over the place. A lot of people want to see him dead. They hate him. They want to murder him. Deputies identified the suspect as this is the California incident, 38-year-old Janine John Tail. Detectives assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force executed a search warrant on Tail's home, citing the potential security implications surrounding the incident. What they found inside was worrying. An AR-style rifle that had been illegally modified, a .45 caliber pistol, body armor, high-capacity magazines, ammunition, and equipment for monitoring radio signals, along with notebooks filled with what the sheriff's department called concerning statements. You know, the typical stuff you put in your closet. Yet another assassination attempt, narrowly avoided. We're living in the last days, my friends. We are living in the days leading right into the return of Jesus Christ to this earth, the days described in Matthew 24 and Revelation 6 and 2 Timothy 3. The last days. Jeremiah, what was it? Jeremiah 30, I think, Jacob's trouble. Daniel 12, verse 1, a time of trouble like never before. Jesus said the same thing in the Olivet prophecy. We are drawing near to the spectacular return of Jesus Christ to this earth and the establishment of God's government over all the nations of this earth. That's all we have time for on today's show, the fastest moving hour in broadcasting. You're listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.